it all comes down to awareness, and more people that are become aware of this plight, the more warriors you will have, because this is going to be a battle that you're going to be enduring, and we wish you all the luck. As you've been told, my name is Allen. I'm Allen Paquin. I am a Hickory Apache, and my Indian name in Apache is Inyosh Nahakosi, which means north wind. And so I'm kind of fighting a internal battle here with having the name North Wind, and you are all fighting a wind battle yourself. But as it is, the wind does play a little bit havoc on the flutes, because this is a wind instrument, but I'm going to do the best that I can. So we want to call you all out before we come up for our panel, because it's a very interesting experience that the Quechan tribe has also endured, and not being a member of the Quechan, but being a member of the Apache Nation, we as natives all stick together, and I've been protesting since high school when the American Indian movement took plight for native rights as a whole. So I'm going to play a song here for you. Just have time for one song before we go up, so I hope you enjoy this. It's a warrior song. Mahalo.
They face the same crisis that we're facing. Please listen to what they had to do to be where they are today. Okay, Kanoho, take it over on the second stage.
Mahalo, Uncle Brian. Everybody come near if you can. Please come near. We're very lucky to have the Quechan tribe come and visit us over here on Molokai. They are dealing with the same developer that we are dealing with here on Molokai, Pattern Energy, who is already in the midst of the development in their aina, in their place. And according to our ohana over here, they are digging up and desecrating their ancestors, the bones, this present time. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Vernon Smith, who is the tribal leader of the Quechan tribe, and everybody can go down and introduce themselves, tell us a little bit of something about themselves, and then we can start with the questions. Mahalo.
Mahalo and aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you for the invitation for us to come down here to your island. We're happy to be here to share the experiences that we've had with Energy Pattern and other alternative energy entities that are beginning to start all kinds of projects like the solar panels, the wind machines. And I understand there's more projects being planned for the same area that we once lived on thousands of years ago, before anyone even discovered the continent of the United States. We were there. We lived there. How do I know this? Been passed down to us by our elders, oral history. All the history of our tribe is contained in the songs that I sing. It tells us so many things that are not written. And you will not find that in the universities, the schools, the colleges. The documents that are being written by archaeologists way back when, it's not there. You will never find it. So we continue to stand up to these big companies. And they do listen. And if they don't listen, we take it to the courts. So far we've been successful in other projects. We've lost a couple cases. One is pending. So we continue to stand up. And I know that someone said, how do the people fight these big companies? Well, the answer is, be united, be strong, believe in your people. Listen to the message that is being given to you by our Creator. Creator still exists today. Pray, listen. Listen to the wind. Listen to the trees. Every living thing that's on this island, they are giving you a message. Go back, listen. Get strong. Pray a lot. We pray a lot. Some of the things we've been faced with seemed hopeless. Look like they were totally against us, the laws that are enacted. But we still rely on the guidance from our Creator. Nature has a way of protecting itself. We rely on that. And that happens when there's something foreign that comes on the land, tries to destroy it. Mother Nature answers back. Believe in that. We've seen that happen so many times. We get stronger. So we pray, we conduct our ceremonies. You have nothing to rely on. Go back to your elders. Look at your history. Learn. What did they do then that you can still do today as a people of the islands? Just remember, these islands belong to you. No one else belongs to you. Whether you live here or you moved somewhere else, your roots are still here. You will return. We do not live here, but we know how you feel. We will share with you today our own experiences of what had happened. How did we try to battle those big companies? What did we rely on? What worked for us may not work here, but it will give you some ideas, some directions to follow in your battle. And always remember, we may leave here a couple of days, but we're not that far away. We try to help as many people as we can. We can return, and it's no real problem for us. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to my companion here, who will introduce herself to.
Aloha.
Aloha.
My name is Lucinda Escalante Polk. I am a member of the Quechan tribe, and I've been very involved in saving our sacred sites, which is always being destroyed from some big companies or other. And the place where we are fighting for the wind turbines are at Ocotillo, which my grandmother told me they used to live there at one time. They lived all around there on that new river, right by Ocotillo, and she told me that wasn't a desert at then. There was a lot of green rushes all over, trees all over with that river there, and I know that our people had once lived there. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't know, but since she told us that, and whatever they do, we're always going all over the place protecting our sacred sites, whether it's the gold mine or other mines that we have that are being destroyed by non-Indians or not tribal members. They kind of sneak up on us and do whatever they want to do. But if they're going to get into our cremation sites and destroy our ancestors' burial grounds, then we have to take care of that. We're not going to be scared and stay away from it. We have to take care of it. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Virgil Smith. Vernon Smith is my father. I am a current sitting council member for the Quechan Indian tribe. I just got reelected and was sworn in this past Monday. So I got sworn in and I hopped on a plane and came here. So I guess I don't know if this is part of a reward for it, but I'm enjoying myself, and you have a very beautiful island, first of all. Yeah, we're just here to answer other questions. We are currently in litigation with Pattern Energy on the Ocotillo site for the wind turbines. We've hit some roadblocks along the way. The process in itself was pretty marred. It wasn't followed the way that it should have been. And we're using those irregularities in our amended complaint. We're actually going to be going back on January 18th, which is the next week, I believe, to San Diego to go back into court and find out, you know, what's going to happen, how we're going to prevail on this or not. So it's something that's very immediate for us right now. So we'll get on to the introductions and then get to your questions. Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Lucia Polk. I am the daughter of Lucinda here. Thank you for inviting us to come and sit and share with you. I am a first grade teacher and was fortunate that my school let me come. I also am lucky in that I have parents who are very involved. I have a very traditional family, and when they do these protests, we as a family get dragged along with them. But it's exciting and we fight for a very good cause. We try to keep our culture intact so that we will have something to pass on to our younger generation, just like you people are trying to do here. My clans are the Coyote clan and the Bear clan. I'm Quechan and Apache, and just very happy to be here, and I hope that I can help with some of your questions.
Danjo, in our language, the Apache language, we greet you by saying Danjo. It means it is good. And it is good here. It's a beautiful day in this beautiful island. And as Native people, we consider our homelands very sacred. So with your island here, your beautiful island and all the islands in this whole area, they're to be considered sacred because this is where you're from. This is your people's land. And you have to, at all cost, hang on to every inch of your ancestral homelands. It doesn't matter how many sites you might find that are sacred, because this whole island is sacred. To a lot of people on the other islands, the touristy islands, they might look at this island as barren and not really interesting, but to us, it is very beautiful. To me, I'm amazed and I'm so blessed to be here on this island. I think you have a very beautiful island, a very sacred island, and I just ask you to hang on to every inch of it. The reason that I'm here is I don't have the personal experience that the Quechan people have in fighting the windmills, but I have a personal experience where my profession is as a professional dancer. I dance and compete in powwows, and the type of dance that I do is called a fancy dance, and it's a very aerobic, high energy, fast-paced dance. So I have to continually stay in shape in order to compete in this style of dance. And so I'm always running. Wherever I go, I always run. And there's one area in California where I used to run. There's hills there, and I like the challenge that it provided for me. And so I used to run there a lot when I was in that area. And then they started to put in those windmills, and they only started with a few. And every time I tried to run over there, they would chase me out. So as that area began to grow, more and more windmills were put in there. And at first, being trained in engineering, it was kind of intriguing to me to see how they constructed these windmills. But after a while, when there was so many of these windmills in there, it just destroyed the landscape. And it's so ugly to see now when I go through there. So you lose access to any portion of the island where they put these windmills. You won't be allowed to go in there. The animals, I don't know if they'll let them go in there as well, but you lose access to all that, the land, the water, your hunting rights, your fishing rights, you'll lose all that. No matter what they tell you, you will lose it. So I strongly encourage you to fight as hard as you can. And it does come down to awareness, because the more people that become aware of what you're doing, the more warriors, both men and women, the more warriors you have, the stronger your fight will be. And I wish you good luck, and I offer my prayers and blessings to each and every one of you in your plight. Thank you.
So, mahalo everyone, and let's aloha them one more time. Aloha. So I really want to just cut to the meat of what what's been pressing on a lot of our minds. And about 2 years ago, Pattern Energy came to this community, and they met in 4 different areas, 4 different districts. They went up to Mauna Loa. They held a meeting. They went down to Kuala Pu'u. They held a meeting down in Kaunakakai, and also on the east side of Molokai. Now, when they came, I I guess they plan it this way. They hire some local people, nice-looking local people, very smart, well-educated, and they came to the community, and they came with these boards, like paper boards, where you can write down information. And what they did was they asked the community here, what would you like? What can we help you with? We want to do this project down there on the west side of Molokai. Please write down what would you like for your community, as we just got over Christmas. So write down your wish list, Molokai, and tell us what you want. And we supposedly want to contribute and help you guys after we destroy the land that you love so much. And as time progressed, there started to be a few people in the community and maybe certain entities who started to position themselves as the people who wanted certain benefits. And this is the kind of benefits that they were reading off. And it says, we have a little glimmer of hope for Molokai. This is what we want to do. We want to protect the reef on Molokai. Even though this cable is planned to go on our reef over here and destroy the second most beautiful reef in all of Hawaii. Okay? And then it says, we want to restore fish ponds. And we want to malama aina and take care of Molokai and our people after we destroy 11,000 acres of our land here. And after we put it in the yards, the front yards and the backyards of our West Molokai people and of our people of Mauna Loa, right in their yard. And I'm sorry, I'm the moderator, I'm sorry. But can you speak a little bit, I'd like to bring this to Virgil. Can you speak a little bit about maybe the similarities of that story and the kind of things that were offered to your tribes and the different tribes? And can you speak a little bit about the division that it has caused within the different Indian tribes? Because it seems we have similar stories.
Well, okay. Well, for me, what started this whole, I guess, series of events is when I first got on council, which is about a year and a half ago. We did receive, I am the cultural liaison to our cultural committee. So as every council member sits on council, they should be a liaison to education, economic development. Mine was the culture and traditions. So in being that person delegated for that, I did receive a flyer for the Akatillo project. And it was a meeting for all of the tribal leaders to come together and tour the area of what was going to be impacted if those turbines were to come in. So when I did go, I did take an elder with me, which was my father. And I also took my younger nephew, just so that I had an elder, myself, and then somebody from the next generation to kind of hear what was being said and how the tribal leaders felt about the area. So we took the tour, and there was 2 sites that we visited that were already kind of declared, protected. One was a spoked wheel glyph. I think I have pictures of it. I just showed it with Miss Joanne Toole. But when we were there, it all came to be is that, we were all standing around that spoked wheel, and it was kind of like, how long has it been since you had all of these tribal leaders standing here around this area? It's probably a history in the making kind of moment at that time. And to me, it was a very proud moment to be standing there with my father and my nephew. And sorry about that.
Virgil.
And so we decided that at that time we were gonna protect that area. All the tribal leaders were all coming together to say that we were going to do whatever we can to protect it. And so we became a group, which another tribe had kind of spearheaded that group, and we were going to these meetings, planning and strategizing how we were going to fight against pattern energy to stop them. But eventually, it kind of fell apart, and pretty soon we were the only tribe standing there with this one particular tribe. And I did kind of ask, are we stepping on people's toes? What happened to all the rest of the tribes? How did this great thing kind of just fall apart? And eventually, we ended up going into litigation, the Quechan tribe, without the help of anyone else, and so we're standing out there alone. The other tribes are still interested. They're still attending our hearings. They're still there in the background. But in the midst of all this, they decided to do setting up a mitigation process with the tribes, which was going to offer them approximately about $6 million to be divided between the 15 tribes that were involved. For our stance, for Quechan, we have never taken part in any of that mitigation, nor will we plan to at all. And it was just a coincidence that I was telling everyone here is that I don't know why our tribe was still on the emailing list, but I'm glad that we are, because while we were driving around yesterday touring, I did receive an email from the Pattern Energy, and they're in the midst of setting up the accounts for the tribes. And the funds that can be utilized is for professional curation and management training, monitoring training for tribal monitors, tribal gatherings, college tuitions, support for linguistic programs. They also have an area for ethnographic and video documentation, which is for each member, each tribe could receive like approximately $23,000. But before you do that, you have to turn in a scope of work to them before you can receive those funds. They also have a long-term management plan, and there's also a museum near Akatia that they're trying to fund also. So these are the kind of things that they're doing to try to mitigate, they call it mitigation, for the tribes, that they can receive these funds in lieu of the wind turbines going through. So I think that's what you're referring to?
Thank you, Virgil. Before I lighten your heart, I thank you so much. This special gift right here, this is for you guys. This is for you guys. And let's lighten our hearts. Uncle Les, no need play the music, Uncle Les. No need play the music. No need. Yep, go ahead. This is from Aloha Molokai to you folks.
I feel your evening breeze tonight. Molokai, I'm longing for your laughter.
On behalf of Molokai, we love you folks, and we thank you guys so very much for being here.
I'll gaze upon your silent shores, reminisce the sweet embrace of ginger. As New York City was closed in, I long for the touch of an island. Molokai, Molokai.
Mahalo, mahalo nui.
Sweet home.
Just to elaborate a little bit more on our areas, there is a difference between our areas and your islands. Here you're still living in the islands, the areas where they're proposing to put these destructive projects. In our area, we no longer live there. We live 90 miles away from there. We had lived there thousands of years ago, and we left a lot of artifacts there. So, being that the land is under the Bureau of Land Management, they own that land, the government, they don't really notify anything, or anyone, for projects that are being planned. They're supposed to. First, they're supposed to find out who lived there, what would they consider to be sensitive to those people. They don't do that, even though the regulations say that. They don't, they disregard it. They go through the whole motion. Then when someone finds out, then they go back and ask the people to come in. That's how come we don't know a lot of projects until it's already in progress. And it's hard for us to stop them sometimes. But the courts have stood with us to say you did not follow the 106 process. You have to go back, consult with the people. Even then, they're already this much ahead anyway. So you have to watch out for that. Here it's different. They did come to you, and they will give you general information. The idea is that when they go back to say, yes, we did consult with them, they did talk to us, no, there was no opposition. But they don't ask you right off the bat, do you want the project or no? They don't say that. Instead, they'll tell you exactly what Kono is saying. We'll give you this. We'll provide you this. We'll, all of that. They will do that. But they'll never ask you until later when you say no. So I told them that this is what usually happens, and it sounds like it's already happening here. So we do use our attorneys that are real good in those areas. But if you don't have an attorney that's well versed in your history and all of that, then they just go through the motions too. And so you have to be careful if you take it to the courts. Who is your attorney? And what is his knowledge of your area and your people? So, but again, I have to strongly say that always rely on your own beliefs, your own customs, anything that you can remember. Because I said this the other evening, I'll say it again, even if you do have attorneys that know the law, federal statutes, you'll still lose because the government is the one that drafted those laws. Even though it's very clear what it says, when it comes time, they'll say, it does not mean that way. They interpret it their own ways. So I said, no matter what you do, you're bound to lose in the courts. So I said, when we start arguing our point, not based on the law, but our beliefs before the law was enacted, they can't refute it because they don't understand it, and we have a better chance of making our arguments stand in court. Courts will listen. They listen to us. So the other thing is to try and educate those people that don't know what you're talking about. But our way of being strong is that we don't tell them everything. They always talk about, we're going to go out there, you know what, there's a rock feature out there. It's a big circle. What does that mean? Why is it so important to your people? You say it's really important, your whole ceremony's there. Convince us how important it is. I say, no, you don't need to know that. You wouldn't believe it anyway. If what we do, what we say, our beliefs are different from yours, doesn't mean that it's wrong. Doesn't mean that our beliefs no longer exist. We still believe in that. We say it's important, leave it alone. Don't destroy it. We don't need to tell you why it's important. We don't need to tell you what kind of ceremonies we hold out there. It's for us. We make that real clear. And they can't argue that. People, even in a higher government, can't argue that. Because they still see us as a sovereign nation with our own beliefs, our own ways of living. They have to honor that. So we are in a much more better situation with who we are, how the government recognizes us in the United States. Or they overrule us a lot of times. They say you're sovereign, just like another country. But sometimes they say you're sovereign only to the point when we say you're sovereign. So government still has that say-so. But we say no. Is this what you have given us? We stand by that. We may not live there, but those remains, things that are out there still belong to us. So the laws are there to protect those sites, protect people like yourselves and us. And when I heard the comment this morning of the regulations of EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, they have a lot of regulations that are in place to protect the environment, you name it. But do they follow it? No, no. But a lot of it is so stringent that even those companies have to go through that. And when I heard them say they're going to do away with it, I heard that before. They want to do away with a lot of these restrictions so the companies can come in and disregard a lot of these things that are there to protect the environment. They're not going to be there. And it's just for those big companies so they can make more money. Bottom line is money. The other side of that is there are some companies that are not from here. They're Canada, Germany, other places. They have the money to do all of these things, but there were several alternative energy projects in Imperial County that went under bankruptcy. So they started the project and they just walked away. So what happens to the land that they destroyed, they disturbed? They don't care. The other thing is that a lot of these companies are depending on the government to subsidize them, give them their credits. Once they get their project, they get their money. If it doesn't work, they don't care. Government's already paid them. So it's a win-win for them. The project does make money, then they make more money. But it's at the expense of people living in that area. In our area, it's the same thing too. Those wind machines generate the power, goes away hundreds of miles to San Diego, Los Angeles. They get the benefits. People down there don't. They'll promise you that your power is so high and all of this stuff, but you know what? They never said, we'll give you a discount. They'll never say, we're going to provide you some free power. They will never say that. They'll mention it, making you feel like, hey, we're going to get something out of it. In reality, you're not going to get anything. People down the other islands or somewhere may benefit, but not the local people. Seems like that's what's happening here too. So you have a right to say, wait a minute, why should we destroy our own lands so somebody else can benefit somewhere else? So these are some of the points that I would like to raise for you to think about. See, and I think Virgil has more on the legal side of it. So I'll stop here.
Thank you, Uncle Vernon. One more question before we get to public comment. Virgil, you guys spoke about being steadfast and about holding true to your cultural ways. What other tools, especially you as the younger generation of your tribe, could use to fight against these big corporations?
Well, for us, I think, because a lot of us, just like with every other tribes out there, for myself, even though my father is a traditionalist and he sings all the songs, I do not. I don't know why, I just can't, I don't get that knowledge to do that or the inclination to even try. I tried, I think, once or twice, and it just doesn't come naturally to me, and so that's for my own thing to deal with. But I always look towards our elders, and to be open-minded and to learn from that and to keep moving forward with that. Sitting here doing this is a lot for me. I'm not very good at public speaking. I'm very shy, I guess. So it's from our elders and where we come from and what we know, and just to keep moving forward. And I think the one thing I wanted to stress for all of the islands is that all of you guys live here. It's your island, it's your land, it's where you guys come from. And if you destroy it, and if you let other people destroy it, you look back, you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you guys get lost, you become like everyone else, I think. And that's the greatest fear, I think, for all the tribes, because you have so many people coming in and trying to change you. It's been in the past, even with our neighboring tribes, that they became mission Indians. They adopted other ways, Catholicism. We have not. That's the one thing that we hold true, is that we still have our traditions, even though we may have lost some of them, and we are in the process of losing them. Our language, there's still a group that still are trying to learn and trying to get that back, even if it skips a generation, and it's for our children, that they can pick it up, that it's still there, it still has a chance to survive. So I think, when I think courts look at us and they try to find out where we've been and where we haven't, and I think that my father has been asked the question, when was the last time you were out there at a certain site? And because they go out there and still do their customs and their traditions and their ceremonies, they could say, well, we were out there last month. And even though it may not be in the bounds of our reservation, they're still out there doing ceremonies, and they have nothing to say about that because we were just out there, doing a ceremony. So it does mean something to our tribe. It does mean something to our people. So that's why, it's good to always have that tradition going further with the younger people. So I think that would be the big thing is this is your elders, because you have to know where you came from in order to keep moving, because once you lose that, you kind of lose yourself. So I think that's the most important thing, and that it applies to, I think, all of the islands, because if they're going to do it to one island, they could do it to another. And what happens to those people that then come to your island? I mean, it's just, it's a chain reaction, and it has to be emphasized that it's going to affect all of the islands and all of the people. And you guys are all one people, whether you're on one island or another. I think everyone should remember that, because, like I said, once it's gone or destroyed, it's hard to get it back.
Thank you. Again, thank you guys for cutting on trail for everyone else to go up against these big wind companies. We'd like to cut out to public comment now. Does anyone have a question, especially those from West Molokai or the Mauna Loa communities that are being most affected? Raise your hand so I can come out and bring the mic. I'll take her and then you.
Hi, I have, again, thank you guys for coming. I have two questions. Here in the state of Hawaii, we do not have any present laws regarding the decommissioning of the wind turbines. So when they're decommissioned, it's literally being left up to the property owner and the owner of the turbine industry what they're going to do with it, when they're going to take it down. In your fight, do you have laws regarding how they're going to remove these things when they break down? And another question would be, our history is at risk of not having a future. And the Native Americans have had so much of their history disrespected and taken away. I mean, I think history books should be rewritten. Cook did not discover Hawaii, he just landed on it, okay? The white man did not discover the United States, he landed on it, Okay. If anybody made a discovery, I think it's the native people made a discovery that we can get sick off these guys. Okay. And my thought is how, because you've gone through this for generations and generations, how do we keep our future generations being able to be at peace, knowing that their historical sites, their history, their culture is being destroyed by other people? How do you prevent that hatred from building up? Because the hatred is going to eat us alive.
So the first question was, are there any laws in respects to the windmills when they are not running anymore?
I don't believe that there was anything in our lawsuit that pertained to that. I have everything in here. I just have to go back and dig through everything to see. Because it's been, we re-amended it because other things came up during the process of this, so that we re-amended the complaint again. So I haven't been able to sit down and read through the whole thing all over again to see what we re-amended. There were other things going on within our tribe, so it's kind of hard to kind of pull that out of memory, but I can go back and check and see.
I have to say that they don't really have a plan in place for everything that might happen for that project. Just like the lady had stated earlier, do better planning. There is no planning. They seem to think that once the project starts, it's going to work all perfectly all the way through forever, whatever. But it doesn't happen that way. But they will not tell you in case there's a major earthquake and all the wind machines topple over, what's going to happen to that, who's going to take care of it, any damages that might occur with the strong winds, the propeller falls off and hits the freeway and kills a lot of people. They don't have those kind of plans in place. They seem to think that, not going to happen. But it will happen. We know that. We just talked about this cable you talked about a few minutes ago. It's contained in a cable, but it emits power. It's going to affect the living sea creatures there. Can you imagine what happens if that cable is broken? You have raw power going into the sea. We know water is a conductor of electricity. What kind of damages will that power do? All they said was they'll take Oahu off the grid. Yeah, but what about the power that's still on? What's going to happen to that? They never answered that. You never will. So there are so many questions that we think about, but they have not said anything about it. And I'm sure we will raise them as we go into the courts and try to bring out all these possibilities that could happen. So thank you for your question.
I believe the second question was, how do you have the younger generation continue the fight without harboring the hatred?
That has been one of the major problems within our own tribe, mainly because a lot of the things that my generation did, we believed in and still live today, has changed from the younger generation. All of that has changed, including our language. A lot of them don't speak it, they don't understand it, they don't do ceremonies, and because they were born and raised on our present reservation, they cannot relate to those areas way off somewhere that something happens, and when the elders stand up to say, wait a minute, the younger generation say, why? We don't live there. It's got nothing to do with us. So it's something that we as elders continue to try to educate our younger people of our history, or our beliefs. They see funeral services going, they go there, they participate, and they leave. but they don't understand why. What do we do? Why do we do these things? Why do we sing those songs? What does the songs mean? So we try to educate them so that they would know how we are connected to all of these other sites out there. It's a slow teaching process. Some young people are beginning to be interested to come and listen, to ask us questions, but some just live in today's world. They're too busy texting, listening to these radios, iPods, and all of the stuff that they do. Have no time to listen to our elders. This is, at some point you need to do that. Put that away. Listen to us. Listen to what's being done. And we're trying to record a lot of these things that are not recorded, they're not written, so that we can have it somewhere where they can go and access it, look at those tapes, etc., and listen, at least learn something. So it is a learning process, and we're trying to teach our young people that. Oh.
Thank you.
And I think for us, when we've had ceremonies out there at Ocotillo, I've tried to take younger people with me so that they're able to see it and to hear, my father and other elders speak. Because, when you talk about, when we explain something to them, their automatic response is to get upset and to go down there and get violent, or to do something as far as, demonstration or something, which kind of turns to that. There's, get thrown in jail or something. So what I try to do is try to explain it to them and say, no, that's not the answer. This is what we're trying to do. And by getting the knowledge of it, you get more out of it, and you're able to, in their own way, kind of disseminate it and then share that. So hopefully, it's just the process of educating and doing it in a consistent manner, so that it's fair and calm, and so that they don't get upset. Because I think everyone's first inclination is to get upset and to go out there and start bashing it or start shooting at it, or whatever it may be. But that's not the answer, and that we try to tell them is knowledge is the key. So I think that's the best way to go forward.
Hey, mahalo. Next question.
Yes, I'm from the West Molokai Association, and there's a number of our board members here. We did a poll of members of the West Molokai Association. Of the responders, about 97 to 98% of them were bitterly opposed to the wind turbine construction. Similar surveys at Mauna Loa have shown the same thing. Despite that, as I think most people that live on the island know, there was a survey conducted by the people that want to build the wind turbines. It was very inclusive all over the island. The people that did that for the ranch and Pattern Energy, they did that so that they could figure out what factions there might be. They told me that, well, if you look at the whole island, it's only about 70% that are opposed to it, and after we do the community benefits, we'll break it down farther. So I have a comment. This is my comment, and I'll have a question. So they are counting on promising things, many of which will not be delivered, and peeling off opposition to the wind turbines. So my question is, from your experience of having had this done to you and having had people peel off, what do you think the best strategy to defend against that is? Because I hear all the time people say, well, there's not enough community benefits. They're going to come back and say, well, we're going to give you all these community benefits, so stop opposing it. And of course, my position is, this is a game changer. If they build this, they will change the landscape. It will be forever altered. It's a much bigger problem in some ways than roads or water or other things that we could remedy. Once these things are built, it's going to be forever changed. So I'm wondering how you can help us know how to keep solidarity about it. So that's my first question. I have a second question. I won't be so long-winded. Second question is, was your lawsuit mainly about disturbing your ancestors' remains, or did it also have to do with the process in which, by which they got the permits to build these? And if so, Which has been the more successful?
Our lawsuit was mostly based on the process. We did have not a team of lawyers, but we have lawyers, and each of them kind of takes one on. One takes on our water issue, one takes on our general matters, or one was our environmental. And he was the one that kind of said, it's better to go with the process because they didn't consult with us properly. You know, there was violation after violation, and that's what basically the route that we took. Some of us are maybe in a little bit of disagreement, but, you know, we're not attorneys. So, you know, we put that in, our trust into that. So that's probably the answer to your second question.
When these companies come to you and offer you a lot of benefits, where do you think they get that idea from? Well, I can tell you, they're getting it from the United States government. They saw what they did to the natives when they came, set foot on our continent. Indian tribes were fighting United States military. They fought them. Some were conquered. There were treaties made with the Indian tribes by the U.S. government with promises, just like they're saying, we'll promise to do this for you, based on this treaty. We have had over 500 treaties with different tribes, and every one of them had been broken. They never live up to it. To this day, they have not done that. So naturally, these big companies follow the same pattern of doing that to you. They have no intention of keeping those promises. It's something that allows them to take control, and they will be in control. The whole idea that I've seen in my time, my lifetime, is that the government, U.S. government, realized they made a mistake by recognizing us as sovereign nations within their country. And they're finding all kinds of ways to do away with it. They've been trying to do that forever. First, they try to take us off our reservations and say, you know what, you're not getting anywhere here. We'll send you to Los Angeles, Chicago, anywhere. Teach your trade so you can make a good living. Their idea is you stay there, you don't come back here. A lot of us went. I came back, I went to the reservation. They tried to do many things to do away with us, our status as a sovereign nation. Any natives anywhere, we see them the same way. You try to control them some way, somehow, to do away with their identity. They want us to be like ordinary citizens like everywhere else, with no roots, no nothing. But we do have our roots. We know where we come from. That land is our land. We've been there forever, and we'll die and be buried or cremated there. They don't like that. They still want to do away with us. They come up with the policy of blood quantum, to be a member of the tribe. That was a white man's concept, not our own. He said, you know what, you want to be recognized by the United States government? Here's the Constitution we drafted for you. Accept it, then you're eligible for federal funds. We'll recognize you as a sovereign nation. The tribe did accept that back in 1935. That Constitution is still standing today. It's so old, so obsolete. We have had troubles with our elections. We have troubles with a lot of other areas that impact us. But they said, you can change it as a nation. We're doing that now. We're going to amend it, make it better. But we're trying to maintain our identity, so we need to do away with that blood quantum requirement. Do away with it. Because there's a lot of tribal members that have married into other races, and their children no longer meet that blood quantum requirement, so they're not eligible to be enrolled. And that was their idea. Somewhere along the line, your blood's going to be gone. Can't recognize you as an Indian no more. So we see that. But there's ways to control you. In the beginning, it's your land. You take it over, and then pretty soon, where are you going to go? What are you going to say, that's my land? It's too bad that somebody owns the land, but still, They have to respect you as a people. People with your own beliefs, your own customs, your traditions, your language. Everything is totally different from the rest. They have to respect it. They have no authority to just wipe it clean. They can't tell you can't speak your language no more. You can't do this. But by having a little power over as to what can be done with your land and all that, it's a start. It's a start to do away with the way of your life, what you believe in. So that's what you need to tell the younger generation. You are proud to be a Hawaiian. You're different. You have something to fall back on. Whereas the non-Indian comes, do you ask them where they're from? Europe, somewhere? They don't know. They don't care. They can live here, 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 it doesn't matter. For us, we live here because that's where we belong. We may move over here, but we still go back over here. They can't do that. So, if you want to maintain your identity as a people, separate people, with different beliefs, you need to tell the younger generation, don't give that away. Your land is important. That's where you're from. You maintain that. Don't be moved off of it. There in the desert, we may not live there, but those wind turbines do have an effect on the environment. All the eagles that go through there, all the living animals. There's 20 of them on one reservation, just a few miles from Ocotillo, up in the mountains, on the Indian reservation, Campo Indian Reservation, Kamiai tribe, 20 of them. Been about 5 years. There was a study done. It is affecting people's health today. They can't say they don't know, they haven't done a study. It has been done. It is affecting them. The machines that are supposed to be self-contained, but the oils, the grease that's supposed to keep the moving parts moving, it's leaking into the ground. Leaking right into it. Given time, it's going to affect the aquifer that's down there, where the people living in that area depend on that water to drink, to cook. It's going to affect it. And they can't deny that it hasn't happened, because it has happened already. So don't let them tell you that, well, we haven't really known. You can find out that it has happened. It is having a negative impact on those people living there. And it will happen here too. I guarantee that. Thank you.
And I just wanted to add on to that, to his question, was that I think, education, making sure that all the parties involved have the same information, so that no one is being told that you're going to receive this and it's going to help you with this. And the big part is that they're probably going to see what each community needs and say, well, we can give that to you in lieu of this. So it's very important that everybody that's involved has that information to say, well, no, that's not what they told us. This is what, so that everyone has the same facts. And that would kind of probably stop from them dividing the people. I think that was kind of what I got out of your question. And that would be the big thing, is just the education, and to make sure that everyone has that same information, so that whatever's given to them is found it to be true or not, but everyone has that information so that there's no dividing there. So I think that would be a good thing, is just the education, and make sure that everyone has that.
Thank you, Virgil. Did that answer your question? We'll go with our last question, Uncle Byron.
Hello, Uncle Virgil. In dealing with the courts, as exile, Kingdom of Hawaii being exiled, as a sovereign being, you said that when dealing with the courts, you lose. But when you said, when dealing with a sovereign from the land, from a nation, you've bring in your tradition and stop the project. Now, there are certain courts that with the evidence of presenting them in court that do not accept certain evidence. And one of the evidence that need to be accepted in courts of Hawaii, Kingdom of Hawaii, the sovereign Kingdom of Hawaii, and the amount of people that don't agree with the windmills. And what they're doing is they're sweeping this evidence of solidarity and under the rug so they can continue. What do you do in the courts? And you said, you made mention last night about the federal court. Now we know with true history what is going on, but what you're doing right now is you're having some victory in the courts. Now we're dealing with state court here. I'm not sure what can be done if you're in the state court. So if there's any jurisdiction, would it be to just skip the state and go into the federal court or the Supreme Court?
For us, when it came about, because we were working with the other tribes and kind of moving forward, and then when it came down to where it was getting to that point where we were going to file, that question did come up. Are we going to file in state or are we going to fight in federal? I think for the most part for us, I think we went with the higher because it would stand much more firmer in federal court than it would in state. The tribe that did approach us did want to file in state and have us file in federal, but we kind of didn't see how that was going to help, so we just went with the federal. And I think what happened in the past, what my father was talking about, that we have had those court cases where we've gone and we've set some standards because we did win using, I think, traditional, our ancestral and so forth. I was younger around that time, so I don't know all the ins and outs of that. My father's the one that was involved in that. But coming in, I also have to state that we came in kind of late as a new council. Like I said, I came in a year and a half ago, and picking that up and then getting involved. And I think it's even states in the records that Quechan started to come in, and that was when I had taken over and we became involved, I guess, not taking over, but became involved in moving forward. So in moving forward in a fairly new council, that's where we said, where we kind of laid our trust into our attorney for the environmental part, that we went with that aspect and not much our cultural, which some of us kind of disagree on, but like I said, we're all not attorneys, we don't know, so we did put our trust in our attorney for that. But I think my father could probably speak on the other aspect of that.
I always favored the federal side too, mainly because they're much stronger and the state can go through its motion, etc. But even if you do appeal it, it still has to go the long process into the federal and all the way up. So we deal with the feds, then it's a much easier way to get to the Supreme Court faster. But I have to warn you too that in the past, the composition of the Supreme Court has changed quite a bit. There was a few there that were always siding with the Indians. When an Indian case comes up, Ascalio, I think, said, well, it's an Indian case, the Indian wins all the time. But then that's been changing. It's been changing because of the appointments made by the Republicans mostly. People, those that are against, they're anti-Indians. They're so, instead of from what my understanding was, the Supreme Court is supposed to be neutral, but no, they're not. They more or less side with who appoints them and find ways and means to even make decisions that are contrary to what other Supreme Courts have decided in Indian cases. So we're very reluctant in trying to get a weak court to the Supreme Court, because once they make a decision, it sets precedents. So we try to avoid it as much as we can and try to resolve it at the lower level. But we're always looking at, if we're strong enough, we'll go ahead and go to the Supreme Court. So But your attorney is the one that will tell you which is the best method of doing this. Because we're all laymen too. We like to see things, we like to win, but sometimes they'll tell you there's a good chance, there isn't a good chance, or what's the best thing we can do. So we've done that, and we rely mostly on our attorneys, and hopefully they're correct. But then the other side of that is that we try to have friends in the Congress that supports Indian tribes. There's very few. One of the strongest supporters of all Indians all these years was Inouye, Daniel Inouye, that passed away recently. We relied on him. He always told us, use your sovereign status. Push that all the time. I'll help you. And he did help us in many cases. There are other Congress people that are no longer there. So now we have a new breed in there that are sometimes against Indians. There are some that are actually trying to do away with Indian treaties. And so we know who they are. And we try not to go to Congress for legislation or things that may help us to pass, to support us. But sometimes we do. We feel strong. We utilize the Congress for new laws. And so hopefully we'll continue to have that good relationship with the Obama administration. Obama administration did come up to the Indian reservation, made promises. They even set up an Indian desk so that we can send our complaints to that person who will go right directly to Obama, which hasn't happened before. So in a way, he is aware, he tries to help us, but at the same time, he listens to the big countries, the companies too, energy company. He's the one that wanted to fast track a lot of these projects, alternative energies, coal type thing, you name it. So once he said that, they stated that, all these companies are, keep your promises, help us. And that's why they're doing that. So Obama gets caught in the middle. I said this to protect the Indians, but I said this, now these people are going over there, what do I do? So we do rely on them too. We send letters to them, to Obama himself. We try to talk to representatives to get to him. So we're trying to get all these people up there aware of what's happening to the Indians in the Southwest. So you have to try a lot of these things, to come up to the best way you can fight that in the court. So, thank you.
I would just like to add on to that also that there was Mr. Daniel Inouye that my father's referring to, and I was very fortunate to meet him last year when our tribe went to Washington to look for funding for a health facility that we were in need of, and he was one of the very few representatives that actually came to our reception and greeted us and spoke with us, and he was very, very, very gentle man, and he impressed me very much, and it was very sad to hear of losing him. So I also wanted to let everyone know also that in our attempt for Ocotillo was that we also filed with the Native American Heritage Council to have the Ocotillo site being deemed as a sanctified cemetery in violations of the Ocotillo Wind Project. And that is coming up. We're going to be doing that in February to see how we're going to fare with that. Another tribe, VA, has also applied for that also, and they were trying to have it in their tribal hall, but we opted for a neutral site in the city of San Diego. So we're going to be going forward with that, and that's just another protective layer for the Ocotillo area that we wanted to implement, so that it just makes it harder for anything else to come to. Even if we win or if we lose, at least it's deemed a sanctified cemetery, and it has some kind of protection for those sites that are there. So we did file for that, and that was just one option, another option that we had did as a tribe to try to protect that area. So that's coming up in February, and again, for the Ocotillo lawsuit that we have against Pattern, that's coming up on January 18th. So once we get back, we'll be gearing up, and hopefully our full council will be heading to San Diego to sit down, and I believe my father will be attending for the sanctified ceremony to offer his knowledge on the area and she just lays some more weight onto that just to keep it protected. So that's, it's something that we're always trying to protect the area, even though it's pretty much in development. It's kind of going forward, even though it has been really fully approved, I guess. So that's the frustrating part about the whole thing. But I do want to let everyone know here that you guys are all one, and you guys should all fight together, stick together. There's strength in numbers. You guys need to protect everything that's sacred, every part of the islands, and I wish you all the luck. And it's such a beautiful place that I hope that that never happens here. So, thank you for having us again and
Molokai
hospitality.
Molokai, how's about a round of applause for our guests, the Quechan, the Apache? Thank you. Thank all of you. Mahalo nui. From the bottom of our heart, mahalo nui.
Mahalo from all of us too. And just remember, we'll be here for a while. If you have any questions that you might want to ask later, just stop us anywhere and we'll be glad to answer them for you. Thank you.
Okay, gang, sit down, okay? Because our next panel, we just went lead up to our next panel, which is talking about energy, self-determination, and independence. So in about 15 minutes, we're going to have our next panel, and we're going to have some wonderful, wonderful people, Native Hawaiian advocates. And I'm going to let our moderator introduce them when we call him up. But before we do that, we have a special guest who just arrived. And I'm going to have our Big Island people introduce him. Bob Petrici will introduce Mayor Harry Kim. Hold on. I find it fitting to have somebody from Hawaii Island introduce him.
Aloha and thank you. So most of you may know Harry Kim. He was the Civil Defense Director on Hawaii Island for many years. During this whole geothermal issue that we've been doing, and so it's actually, we've been doing it for 31 years. The first plant went online in 1981. After that, he retired in 1999 from civil defense and ran for mayor, and from 2000 to 2008, he was the mayor of Hawaii County. Harry Kim.
Thank you. I learned a lot today. I really don't know how to address what I feel. I'm trying to sense what is here. I make no bones about it, the valleys of Molokai, we know are varied, but the essential core, I'm very ignorant about it. So I'm just trying to listen, and I'm trying to feel what is here. Before I go on that, I think you need to know a little bit of what I truly believe in, because in any further discussion, it is not that I'm right or you're wrong, or I'm wrong that you're right. This is what I feel about life. Listening to words, whenever I hear someone say, the government, I wish I would hear the word, our government, because this is our government. And if you blame the government, and I know I'm not going to be very popular after I leave here today, but if you blame the government, you have to, in part, blame yourself, because that's our government. They didn't get the job by appointment or given to them by the parents. They got there because they worked for it in their way, whether you like it or not. They got there, and then you put them there. For all of us who are dissatisfied with what has been going on, whether it be the mainland, Molokai, Puna of Hawaii, it is partly our fault. If you don't accept that, then it's very difficult to go forward. It's very difficult to make any real changes, except for minor stuff, this road versus that road, or this tower versus that tower. As far as real changes, if you look back on so-called victories, they're very hollow victories. Someone asked me after that very tragic affair where 20 children of all 6 and 7 years old died, and very brutally. I was watching those little keikis play back there, and no matter what, when you look at children, you feel hope, because they are of our innocence, of what we want to be. Of the 6 adults that died along with the 20 children, all of them, I think the age was, the oldest was 7 years old. When I was asked after it happened, what happened in your eyes, what do you feel? Immediately it is, whether it be of the wind farm, of the way the Indians were treated, or the Eskimos, or the Aborigines, it is our failure. And that is exactly what I told the media. Those 20 children died because we failed them. No different if the wind towers are built here and 20 years from now, we see the negative effect and a child says, what happened? Well, we failed them on both sides. For those who are from Hawaii Island that know me, know that I've said it 100 times, 10, 1,000 times. Our greatest failure of people is war. And I'm not talking about a war between countries. I'm just talking about war between people, the inability to resolve things. And if you think that war is the answer to peace, and I mean any scope of war, including the courts, there will always be wars. And that is what I feel about us as people. You have to empower yourself. You have to put away your selfish values of yourself and your ego. You have to dig deep in regards to what is this all about. And I don't care what the opposition, Bob knows it. He gets a lot of scolding from me from past. You've got to stop your ways of confrontation. You have got to reach out to the people that disagree with you very strongly. They will always be there. Hell, my wife disagrees with me every day. And that's not a joke. But don't you think that's what we have to do? At my age, there's very few things of people that you will carry with the highest esteem of respect, of care, of admiration, and of love. When I was asked that, what is the latest thing in the past 15 or 20 years that you remember that gave you that kind of respect, I immediately thought of an Amish community no bigger than this, maybe smaller than Molokai, where a person of that community went into a school, held hostage children, and shot them, just like recently. At this time, the kids were, I think, as old as 14 or 15. And as always, there are stories of heroism of this young girl telling this man that did the killing of that community, shoot me first. Because she told her friend, maybe if I can delay them, help will come. Help will come to save you people. And he shot her. As cold as can be, he shot her. And that's the kind of cruelty, of hostility of mankind towards mankind I can never understand, nor do I want to. And then what happened? I think some of you read in the news that this small community of the Amish people, we're going to hold a special prayer of forgiveness, of understanding, and of hope. And who did they invite? They invited the wife of the man who killed their children. And I said to myself, God help me that I can be of that kind of strength, of forgiveness, and of love. But here's the other side of us as stupid, greedy, selfish human beings. I was watching the news the other day, and I heard a word that I've never heard before in my entire life of us and our government. And I'm looking towards this panel because you are no different than we are in the way we react. And I'm asking for us to change. That this is our government. You put them there. So when you say the government, you better say us government. And then maybe we can work together to change some of the values that are up there or down there or over there. And yes, the values in regards to expressed here, the values that are felt here, or the values back home are the same. There is a separation of people. The one word that I heard never described of people in government before was when this person in Congress, a Republican, who was talking about the conflict in Congress and not being able to resolve certain major issues. As we know, most of the American people, by all polls, show us to be so dissatisfied with our government, the way our electives, officials, solve the problems by blaming or party politics or lobbyist politics or money politics. And he said, I'm afraid to tell you, the American people, that a lot of the people that represent you in this place called Washington are people without souls. I want you to feel that. How can you and me allow this to happen? That people are beginning to say, the people that work for you, the people that are going to try to make things better, are people without souls. And he said this on CNN. He is a congressman. Then I heard it here in Hawaii a day later. Well, that guy don't have a soul. If that is true, and that's the kind of people that we are putting forth to work for us, we are in deep, deep trouble. And you've got to know that. I just told Bob before I came up here, sometimes, yes, it's very hard. But that's why we got to keep trying. You tell me, what is the alternative? You think victory is going to come in a whip? No way, Jose. I told him to look at this group. You can time this by 10, and it's meaningless when it comes to election because those people of power who times that number by 10 and money by 1,000 times to get what they want. And I want you to go away from here, remember that word. If we are beginning to put people up there to work for us or without souls, what the hell is happening? I told this to some legislatures just recently. I ran for mayor and I lost, by the way. But it was a hell of a good fight, wasn't it, Bob? But I want you to know what I feel in regards to us. I think, and I've said this in Germany, I've said it in Japan and Korea and Indonesia and all the countries that I was sent to work for various reasons. I am Korean by nature of blood. I was lucky to be born and raised in the forest of Puna and never saw electricity for 19 years of running water of my life. My daddy died young, and I was hana'ed by Johnny Ke'ave. And I started to learn what is of preciousness in regards to things of importance. It is natural for my granddaughter and grandson to be wooed in this world of technology, of materialism. And that is okay. But what is not okay is when we forsake the values of what is precious. And it is our fault. I was honored to be guest speaker for the University of Hawaii, and I told them basically the same thing of Hawaiians. I really believe that those of you who are here by the gift of coming here, those of you by gift of born here, and you are not of the heritage of Hawaiian, you are blessed to be mixed with and learn from a soul that is the warmest and the most given on God's given earth. And I believe that. It is our duty, I don't care who you are, to work together. I'm asking you to put away your swords. I'm asking you to back up a little bit and reach out, as they say, to those who are on the opposite side of the fence. If we don't do that, tomorrow the issue will not be wind farms. Tomorrow the issue will be a nuclear power plant or whatever. But if you establish values of goodness, I don't care what comes up, you will resolve it. And maybe Molokai can teach the rest of the damn world how to do it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Uncle Harry Kim, Mayor Harry Kim. Maybe Harry Kim for governor.